President Trump is expected to hit Iran with new sanctions tomorrow, and Tehran is already pushing back.
If Trump decides to take further action, our response, our retaliation, will be seismic. First, we will tell all neighboring countries and countries around the world not to join the United States in its economic war. Any country that takes part in imposing economic restrictions on us will be regarded as an enemy.
Now, reports say Iran could go after U.S. military bases in Europe, including the Besmer Air Base in Bulgaria, which is used to refuel aircraft. Several European cities and U.S. military outposts are in Iran's ballistic missile range. Reports also indicate Iran may target Europe's fiber optic cables. This comes as Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent prepares for economic D-Day against Iran. Tommy, I hate to say that it's Groundhog Day, but we woke up today and Iran is threatening to drop the hammer, and President Trump is as well. And it just seems like, well, that's where we are.
Yeah, that's where we are. I do think, though, that this economic option, we'll see how it goes. And again, if it was just as easy as that, we probably would have done it from the start, as you said yesterday. But perhaps this is the route. And I think Iran threatening its neighbors and threatening European countries, again, not new. They've been doing it.
Yeah.
So when they say you'll be regarded as an enemy, you've been treating your neighbors as enemies already. So I would hope that these European countries, and then of course some of our allies or frenemies in the Middle East, I hope that they would take note of that. Iran is not their friend. They need to be isolated. You get to choose which team you're on, and you probably better choose the United States of America and President Trump at this point. So we'll see what happens, but if epic fury is over, economic fury begins or continues, and perhaps that's just what's needed. And maybe that's the final nail in the coffin, and we'll finally get somewhere.
Rich, Iran says, hey, listen, if you're out there, don't side with the U.S., don't help with these economic sanctions. It's my belief that that is not going to be easy for the president to do. That's why he hasn't done it yet. I mean, ultimately, if you're trading with Iran, it's not because it benefits Iran, it's because it benefits you, and it's not something you want to hurt yourself over. Maybe they've made some of these other Middle Eastern countries mad enough, but I feel like if they did attack some bases in Europe, I don't know, like 6 months ago I would have said, well, then those countries would absolutely be on our side. But now I don't know what they wouldn't get mad at President Trump if Iran attacked them. So I think there is some chess here, maybe some diplomacy that the president's having to do in order to prepare for what might be the next wave of escalation.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, in a way, the United States getting into what happened in the first Trump term, which is the maximum pressure campaign. There wasn't shooting back then, largely. I mean, there was from proxies, but it wasn't as direct as it is now. And the question that the Treasury Department and Secretary Bessent may be asking some allies and maybe some adversaries is, okay, well, do you want to be part of the global financial system, which the United States is ahead of? Do you want to do business with the United States and a $40 trillion economy, or do you want to do business with Iran? Now, a lot of times when it comes to doing business directly with Iran, there's some, moving behind the backgrounds, hiding payments, things like that. But for the most part, the United States, the Treasury Department is on top of making sure that sanctioned companies and individuals are excised. It's a challenge. It's a game of whack-a-mole, but this is the game they play. The question is, the secondary sanctions. Are there businesses doing businesses behind, Chinese businesses who are processing, Chinese businesses that are involved? Like, is the U.S. really going to lay the sanctions hammer that far down the road? We'll see when the Treasury Secretary does it, but the U.S. has a ton of power. How much of it the U.S. exerts, how much the administration does, we'll see the details.
One way that Iran's talking about pushing back, we know that they have missiles that can go a couple thousand kilometers. The one that headed towards Diego Garcia, I don't know. I've heard different reports about how accurate that was as far as a missile that could reach that far with a warhead on it. But another place, Alicia, that they're talking about attacking or retaliating is through the fiber optic cable that's laid in the sea. A lot of people know that there's one across the Atlantic Ocean and across the English Channel, but if you look here, I found this today. There's actually 2 or 3 sets of cables that take this same route, and it goes pretty much everywhere we've been talking about. Mm-hmm. And so they have the opportunity to disrupt communication in and around their waters and around their coast, as you can see there, that goes all the way back up to France, back up into Europe. And so, as far as their capability to do that, we'll see. But, I mean, it's just another, I guess, option on the table that Americans weren't thinking about yesterday.
No, not at all. But President Trump has been trying to get European countries on board a little bit more, and Iran may have actually made this argument for him. If they're now being so specific with this fiber optic cable, this underwater I don't know. Is it a?
It's communication.
Yeah.
It's a cable laid underwater. It's got multiple strands of fiber optic in it. And the problem with fiber optic is if you break it in one place, it's no good anywhere. So, if they have the opportunity to attack it, even in a rudimentary way, they don't know they can get in there and fix it. So it could disrupt communication, probably used for things like money transfer, stuff like that.
So if there's an attack on this system itself, does that activate anything within NATO? Was my big question when you start talking about European countries and NATO allies.
Well, we think that they sent a missile to Diego Garcia, right? That didn't necessarily get the Brits involved. And we've seen other little things. Some of these ships that have been attacked, depending on the country they were flagged in and going from and to, I think the European countries have pretty much said, we're out of it until you de-escalate, talking to President Trump. And that's been the problem is, Iran can position anything they do as retaliatory because we struck first with Midnight Hammer.
Right. But it does seem like the president and Secretary Bessent have definitely, they've hit a different kind of nerve here with this economic threat. It feels like it to me, because the threats that we're seeing now are incredibly specific. And there is a question of missile range that you just brought up as well. But this fiber optic thing feels new to me. Am I wrong on that?
It's been a part of the conversation that we've had about the Strait for a while, as far as how vulnerable everyone is with the Strait being under attack, or at least under threat. This is something that I think that we can defend against pretty well, but the fiber optic that's laid down, it's not laid down in a defensive way. It's pretty, you can take a ship and drag an anchor and cut it, because I guess when they laid it, they didn't think in 20 years somebody would want to disrupt it. So we'll see.
But why wouldn't they just do that already then? If they could disrupt everything, these threats from Iran again, it's like going back to, they're never going to stop.
Yeah.
And imagine them, if they're going to do all of these things, imagine them with a nuclear weapon. So all of their neighbors and all these European countries, they would be well to smarten up and realize this is not going to stop. You're never going to appease them. They're never going to stop towards their main objective. And all of you will be gone, because they will leave none of your countries behind or